Shalom and welcome to Wisdom and Torah section of Did You Know? This week we're going to be covering something I think is quite interesting, and I really enjoy context. I enjoy understanding some of the contextual, social backgrounds and cultural understanding of some of the things that happen in the Bible. There's always arguments in the Gospels in regards to Yeshua and the Pharisees. Many people really do not understand, or maybe we're not aware of the differences between the houses of the Pharisaic movement in the first century, or their arguments that they're having in regards to some of the things they're trying to understand and trying to apply the Torah to everyday life in the first century. And in Luke chapter 7, Mark chapter 7 is a great example of that. And I want to talk about what Korban meant to the first century Pharisees, some of the Pharisees, versus what the Torah says Korban is. Now remember, what I'm going to talk about right now is found in the Torah, but the application was taken out of context as a way for some of the Pharisees to make loopholes in order for them not to take responsibility of what righteousness and justice was. Let me make a quick point about that before we go on. The duty and the mandate of Israel and all of us is to do righteousness and justice. Exactly what Elohim told Abraham in the book of Genesis. Now, if Israel does not lead by example in doing righteousness and justice, then the world is going to speak badly against the Elohim of Israel, thus bringing shame. So, when you bring shame to the Elohim of Israel, he is an honorable Elohim. So therefore, he will defend his honor. He will defend his word. He will defend his oath. So now what we have in the first century is a situation just like modern day politics. There's a lot of corruption, and there's good and bad people everywhere we go. Now, Yeshua is dealing with this type of backdrop. He's dealing with leaders who are supposed to lead Israel into righteousness and justice, into the righteous observance of the Torah, doing it from the heart, doing it because they want to obey the Creator as a grateful servant and client, and in turn, they take the Torah and they will make loopholes by using the law as a precedent, using the Torah as a precedent, out of context. And I believe Yeshua is really trying to bring clarity to the proper context of what the Torah really is trying to say and trying to fix what they're doing that is against the principle of mishpat v'sadakah, righteousness and justice. So let's go right into the text. In the book of Mark, chapter 7, there's an argument. Yeshua is having with the Pharisees. Now, we're talking about the traditions of the elders in chapter 7, verse 1, but we're not going to really focus about that. We already know that there are, like in verse 6, it says, he said to them, Isaiah prophesied rightly about you hypocrites, as it is written, the people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. So what are they doing? They are using the commandment of men, the tradition of the elders, above the commandment of God. Now, I don't have a problem with a custom, because Americans have customs. Puerto Ricans have customs. Every country in the world have customs that they do that identify them as a people. Israel is the same. They have customs, they have traditions, they have things they've done. But the problem is when you take the customs and you apply them above the Torah and you make other people break the Torah by obeying only a custom. It's just like saying on the 4th of July that the fireworks presentation is more important than the 4th of July itself, when the 4th of July is actually law. The fireworks is the custom. The hamburgers is a custom. And things like that. And all the hot dogs they sell, okay? All right, so in Mark chapter 7, verse 9, listen to the argument. And he said to them, you have a fine way of rejecting the commandment of God in order to keep your tradition. For Moses, and then he goes directly to one of them. He's not saying all of the traditions. He's saying, let's go to this one. For Moses says in the Torah, in the command, in Exodus chapter 20, honor your father and your mother. And whoever speaks evil of father or mother must surely die. That's what the Torah says. But you say that if anyone tells father or mother, whatever support you may have had for me is Korban, that is, offering to God, then you no longer permit doing anything for a father or mother, thus making void the word of God through your tradition. Which tradition is he talking about here specifically? Calling something Korban. And we're going to talk about that, what it means right now. He says, thus making void the word of the Lord through your tradition that you have handed on as you do many, many things like this. Okay, so what's really the context here? That's what we're going to need to focus on. All right. In the Torah, there is such a thing as Korban. When you dedicate something and you say, I'm going to give this to the Lord. Offerings and the tithe in the temple times and things like that. But there's also what is called oath. See, taking an oath in the ancient world was a great thing. I mean, you didn't really take a name and you didn't make an oath unless you were sure you could follow through on it. Why? Because in order to make an oath, you have to call upon the name of your God, of your Elohim, as a witness of that oath. That will be your witness that what you're saying is true. So anyone who will shake your hand and says, I give you my word in the name of the God that I serve, he is bound by his oath, because if you did not follow through on that oath, then the God that you serve, in this case, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, bears the shame. And bears the shame of you not following through. We have to represent his character, his honor, his integrity, his justice, and his righteousness. Okay, so in Israel in the first century, in Judea in the first century, some of the leadership have made a loophole that they will say, well, there's a tree, and I don't want to give you any part of that tree, so I'll make that tree Korban. It's only an example. That means that once you make an oath that you separated that tree as an offering for the temple, no one can eat of it. No one can touch it. Now it's dedicated for the temple. And you use the word of the Lord as guaranteed of that. You made an oath. So it happened in regards to doing righteousness and justice, in helping your parents. The Torah in the book of Exodus, chapters 20, one of the commandments is honor your father and your mother. We are commanded to honor our parents, to help them, and to take care of them. But they found a loophole. The person will say, hey, I made a vow that this is Korban, that my house is Korban, that my whatever I have is Korban. You made an oath. You can't break it. They understood that you couldn't break it. So thus, now you neglect the Torah of helping your parents and the obedience that represents the integrity of the father. Honor, because if you honor your parents, you honor the Creator who gave the commandment, and now you rather take that for yourself in order not to give it to your parents. That's really the core, the issue here that is going on. That they have established a loophole as a way to say, you know what, we don't want to help our parents. It's interesting that there was a particular rabbi, and I got to go to this resource, because it really highlights what we're trying to say. When you go to the resource and you start looking into, give me 1 second here, I got to find it. But when you go to the resource and you start looking into the issues of Korban, there was a rabbi, Rabbi Eliezer ben Harkanis. He said, they unloose a vow for a purpose to reference to the honor of his father or the mother. In other words, if they're breaking the rule, that rule about giving things to a father or mother, you can have a Corban Vow. In other words, they don't want to help their parents. They don't want to do the biblical command. They rather just take an oath to keep them away from helping them in order to help them. So behind the text in the book of Mark chapter 7 lies a huge argument that was going on in the first century between even the Pharisaic movement. Remember, you have the house of Hillel, you have the house of Shammai, and they're having arguments. They're having arguments about some of the things that are going on. Yeshua in this case is trying to give his understanding. He's taking everybody back to the essence of the Torah. He's taking everyone back to what the command says. Honor your father, your mother. Korban is one thing. But you cannot use an oath to do away with another commandment. You just can't do that. And that's what they were doing. They were using something that their leadership have established as a loophole in way to annul a commandment. So that means that the rabbinic, in this case, a Pharisaic decree trumps the Torah, or that Yeshua is saying, no, the Torah is always above a decree that goes against the Torah. So, and this is the argument that is going on, just like it's happening today, every day amongst our congregations. Even every Shabbat or every week, there's always arguments within our congregations trying to understand the context of what the words of the first century say. And I highly recommend that we consider going back to the first century, understanding of the social culture, understanding of the language, understanding of even the archaeology, honor and shame, righteousness and justice, because in every argument Yeshua's having, normally is because they are doing someone wrong, or they are not upholding the word of the Lord above everything else. And that's the problem. Where does the word of the Lord stand in your life? Do you believe in God, or do you believe God when he says it? Do you believe Yah, or do you believe Yah, or do you believe in Yah? And you say, I believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But yet, when the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob says something, we have to reinterpret it. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The same problem that we see in the first century, we are seeing it today. Many people are trying to reinvent the wheel, and we are doing the same thing. We are causing the same problems, and Yeshua once fixed it, and now we're waiting for him to return so he can fix it all over again. I'm excited to know that in this journey of the Torah, as we are learning, and as we continue to walk in it, we continue to learn, we continue to understand more and more and more and more. And all I'm asking every single one of you is, do not believe anything I say, but verify everything I say, so that the honor and the glory of the Creator be exalted forever, so that our Messiah Yeshua will never be shamed by everything we do and by everything we say, and by anything we say. Because our duty and our job as clients, as the servants, as the vassals of the great King, is to serve him with a spirit of humbleness, submissiveness, and do righteousness and justice, so that when we walk by the way, our King will get the honor, our Creator will get the honor, and not us, but only him. So that means that we learn to move ourselves out of the way, and we let our King get all the honor and the glory, because our Father sitting on the throne, he is worthy of all praise. And I thank the Son Yeshua, my Messiah, for allowing us access to this great Elohim, that now he is there interceding on our behalf, so that we may have the promise of everlasting life. May the Lord bless you, keep you, and protect you. Thank you for joining us on this little Did You Know this week. And go back to Mark chapter 7 and take the time to understand all of the arguments that is going on in the first century. And the Mishnah is a good resource, at least to understand some of the arguments they're having. Okay? If you don't believe the Mishnah should be something that you want to study, at least look at it as a historical perspective of the arguments that many people were having in the first century, so that you can get better clarity in some of the things that we read in the first century and the words of our Messiah Yeshua. May the Lord bless you and keep you. We'll see you next week. Shalom. Bye-bye.